since we waste enough time off the air talking about other things, we are now going to talk real boxing talk. You should have been involved with that conversation, but sorry, that's private, so for you. On Real Boxing Talk, we have our normal panel of...
Normal? Did you say normal?
And we'll move on from there. What we would like to do today, gentlemen, is, as we spoke about last week, we have real boxing to talk about. So we'll go over what we talked about before, the Charlo fights and the aftermath of all that. And then we'll get into a couple of things that we were talking about previously about now that boxing is back, how do we set it up? Who's involved, who's not involved, who should be involved, and so on and so forth. So we're going to start with John. John, give us a quick recap of the undercards that we were talking about as far as how things played out, they played out the way we thought they would, and how to move forward from there.
It's like anything in sports, Frank, Charles. You know, I was really high on the Neri fight. I thought that one could turn into a real barn burner, and it wasn't. It was a snooze fest.
Right.
The card was a good card. Figueroa did his thing like he always does. He's never in a boring fight. That's just how the Figueroas are. I'm sure I'm not remembering all the fights, probably because I was watching Josh Taylor also demolish his opponent in one round. So it was a very, very busy day. But I'll just skip to Jamal Charlo, who I don't know if the guy's ever going to get the credit that he deserves, but I thought he fought really well. He's fighting a tough guy in Derevchenko, and he did his thing. He wobbled him a few times. He beat him up really bad. His face was all swollen up. But of course, all I saw afterwards from most boxing fans is that he didn't look that good. That he beat up a guy that Golovkin just beat up. But he did do what we were talking about on this show, Frank. So even if you're constantly complaining that we don't have a lot of viewers, he must have been watching us because he called out Canelo, and he called out Canelo, and he got a little more vocal than he usually does. And we were talking about that last week, so I'm really glad. And then Jamel did his thing. A lot of talk about the body shot that put Rosario away, that it didn't look legit. And I'm like, no, looked legit to me. I mean, he had been hurt, he had been stumbling, he had been bumbling, he had been bothered by some other in the previous round or 2 rounds before that. Mm-hmm. So as far as the card, as far as the fights, I thought it was a very good show. And the Charlos, they did their thing. They won. They put themselves in position. Supposedly, Andre said to Jamal, hey, let's fight. So good. That's what we want. We want them to fight. So hopefully that's going to happen. But then I haven't heard anything since. So there you go. So, but overall, it was a good night, and the Charlos won impressively. I thought both of them. I think Jamal's better, so he's going to win. Rosario a little limited, but Jamel did his thing, and he's a solid. Like he said, he's the king of 154-pounders, and that's exactly what he is. He's the king, and these guys are talented. I'm frustrated that they don't seem to get the credit they deserve.
Well, Charles, John just made a perfect point. Rosario being limited. Now, were we thinking he was limited until he was shown to be limited? Or is it like, wait a second, there's another level that you're not at yet?
No one, they weren't really talking about that. All most people were thinking about is the factor that he took down J-Rock, Julian Williams. Right. You know, and you know, Williams, of course, had to fight before where he defeated Hurd. Yeah, so right. he took that belt, and everybody thought he was going to take off, and then all of a sudden, you get this shocking knockout, and now, you know, Rosario gets the opportunity, and now everybody's talking about how he's going to give Jamel Charlo hell, and he didn't. And for those that talk about that little knockdown in the 8th, like with the body shot, Rosario has even come out and said it was the punch in the 6th round. I think it was around 6th round. Right. He got rocked with that he said, I never recovered from. I went back out there like they told me to, but I was still feeling the after effects. So people that if an opponent says that, right, then who are we to and fans to, you know, to disagree with that? So no, but again, I mean, it's just funny because Jamel's like this. Now you say you want to see these fights, but the point of it is you have Lubin asking for a fight now, and I'm like, didn't you just lose? I mean, there's some other people behind him that are right there that you maybe would like to see instead. And my thing too is, like I said, I want to see this whole thing get mixed up. I do want to see Jermell Charlo fight somebody, you know, of more significance as well. But let's see Lubin versus Harrison. I want that fight. I think that'd be a hell of a fight.
Sure.
And then if Lubin can defeat Harrison, it shows you he really is on his way back up. So, yeah.
Well, I look at it this way, and this is the way it used to be. If you lost, you moved down a peg, but you weren't gone.
No.
If someone else lost, they moved down a peg, but they weren't gone. And now you lost to this guy, you lost to that guy. You want to move back up? You got to beat the guy that lost to that guy and move back up.
Yeah.
You know, and you may cross-pollinate or whatever, but you still are in the mix. But it seems like now one loss. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. It seems like now, depending upon who you are, one loss either gets you eliminated, or one loss means nothing at all. Because we see guys, we've talked about Sean Porter before. Sean Porter can lose his next 10 fights. He's still going to get a fight. It really doesn't matter. It's the guy brings action, and they're going to put him out there. But certain people, you know, they lose one fight and they're gone, and you never hear from them again. I'm thinking of someone like Austin Trout. You know, lost a fight, boom, lost a fight, boom. Now you never heard from him. He's done. You know, maybe even I don't know. Is Kell Brook in the mix anyplace?
Yeah.
Yeah, he might be fighting Crawford.
Yep.
That's
he might be he might be fighting the guy that no one else is fighting.
Right.
So it's like, well, should it? Well, I guess the question is, should Crawford be fighting Spence or someone, or is he fighting? Well, I guess I'll fight Kell Brook because I got nobody else to fight. I'm not disparaging any of them. I'm just saying Kell Brook is okay. Should Kell Brook be the okay guy, or should be like, wait a second, I should still be fighting guys at the top of the division? That's just one guy. I'm just saying. So that kind of leads us into the next thing of how many guys are there out there, any number of divisions, any number of weight classes, whatever, that just are getting overlooked when we and other people are talking about this is the fight, this is the match they need to make, and why are we forgetting this person? Why are they shut off to the side? It could be in division, just, you know.
Well, you're talking about Crawford. I mean, I think he's been mismanaged. I think Bob Arum's done a terrible service to Crawford because he's 36-0 with 25 knockouts. He wants to fight all the top guys. Okay, you're not going to get him with Errol Spence because Errol's fighting Danny Garcia. The guy you just mentioned, Frank, get him in there with Sean Porter. I mean, we'd kill to see that fight. I'd love to see Sean Porter push Crawford back. He hasn't ever been pushed back like that.
Right.
I'd love to see it. Why doesn't it happen? And you're right. There are some guys that get discarded. Sometimes it's because their performance isn't very good, but sometimes it's also because it's who you know. You know? And the reaction isn't good enough. And then a lot of it too is who's your promoter. If you, I think Andre. I mean, I think he's been as another guy who's been mismanaged. Unless they're protecting him. I mean, I can't figure that out. I saw him going back and forth with Billy Joe Saunders, and he said to Billy Joe, stop lying, mate. He said, you know, and he wants to fight these guys. So you ask yourself, why does a guy get thrown to the side? Like you just said, what did he do? What did he do wrong? Like David Lemieux is another one that just popped into my head, and he got a lot of chances because he's a power puncher and he knocks people into Tomorrowland when he hits them. But other guys have talent equal of his, and they get. I know exactly what you mean. It's just sometimes that's the way it is in boxing now. You seem to have a small group of guys, and they seem to keep getting the main fights, where the other guys are just waiting around for crumbs.
And we sometimes we keep Dave Lemieux's one of them. Jean Pascal was one. We just keep trotting out this guy 17 times, and then. Well, there he is again. Well, we need a title fight. Let's bring in Sam Solomon.
Right.
Well, look, I love a Sam Solomon fight. Don't get me wrong, But how many fights did he have where you went, he doesn't have a chance to win this fight? It's still entertaining, but yeah, like, well, we need to make a fight this week. Somebody call Sam Solomon, you know. Charles and I have talked about that before. It's an entertaining fight, don't get me wrong, but you know at the end of the fight, he's not going to win. Looking at, say, like an Alexander Usyk, if I pronounce that right, when we're talking about the heavyweights, and it's usually 3 names, and it's really usually only 2 names, okay, when we get to that, is that somebody who should be in the mix? Has he proven he should be in the mix? Or is it just, well, you know, he's there, but maybe not? Charles, I mean, looking at the heavyweights, and we'll get into this all as this is going to be a mixed bag show. But is this somebody where we're saying, look, why doesn't this guy get a shot? Why are we waiting for that guy? Why are we waiting for that guy? Or is it he's a level below?
Well, I'm going to say this. I mean, it depends on who you talk to. I think he has the right to say he deserves a shot. But then again, I'm a prove it type person. And if you have an opportunity, if the one guy won't fight you, right? Because we knew how that was going for a while. If the one guy won't fight you, go fight somebody else that might be, like, for instance, when you look at the Jamal Charlo, you know, everybody's talking about he can't get Canelo, he can't get Triple G. So he goes and fights the guy that Triple G fought, right? And he masters him. So, well, when you look at that, as far as the heavyweights is concerned, you know, I'm looking like this. The one name that I'm saying, show me that you are ready. If you don't get the big fight with the top 3 or whatever guys, I know one guy, and I've been waiting on somebody to fight him because everybody else is talking about it. Let's go and fight Ortiz. Come on, baby. Let's fight Ortiz because you know he's always wants to fight. He's older. He's also always a legitimate threat, right? And if you want to prove that you deserve to be in with the Joshuas, you know, the Furies and the Wilders, there's a guy over there that is dangerous, and I'll put my money on him to see him fight against anybody and just prove it. And if you do that, then that's great. That's all I'm saying. We have these, you know, everybody wants, I deserve to be here. And maybe you do. I'm not saying he doesn't. But if you can't get to the top, find your way to get against somebody that's legitimate and somebody that literally in the last Wilder fight gave Wilder, you know, he was ahead on the cards. I think he's a legitimate opponent. And then that way you keep moving on instead of going, well, is it Dylan White? I mean, is Dylan White ever going to get himself together? And I'm just saying that for himself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Ever get himself together. But I think that's a legitimate way to go. If that was me, or if I'm a promoter, I'm thinking the same way. Or you keep chasing him around for 3 years.
Right. And that's where we're at. John, so is that how you go about it? You're saying, I can't get the fight. I'm undefeated and I can't get the fight, so I go fight this guy instead? Or do I sit there and whine and cry and hope that, well, I hope I'm the next one in the eliminator or the mandatory and maybe I'll get my shot then, if I'm Usyk, for example?
Well, you got to stay busy. I mean, talking about Ortiz, he might be as old as me. You know, he's probably pushing 60 now. I'm being facetious, but he's dangerous. Sure, Wilder knocked him out twice, but he's a dangerous guy. You know, and he was beating Wilder in both fights. The first one, it was close, but he was right there. And the second one, he pretty much won every round, and Wilder didn't knock him out. He's the kind of guy that would be scary to if your heavyweight is even a Joseph Parker, who's fought a lot of guys, fought Dillian White. He would be a scary fight because he's so, here it comes, Charles. He's so crafty that ding, he would be scary. So you worry about things like that. I just think that, and I'm guilty of this myself, I think sometimes in boxing you overthink things. Right. You know, boxing is really all about, it's like Vegas. It's gambling. That's what boxing is. And you got your fighter. You're gonna have to put him in there with somebody that's a little risky, and you got to, or you just keep fighting guys that you know that your guy's gonna destroy. And what has he really gained from that? I mean, Bob Arum talked about I'm so effing tired of mismatches. It's like, come on, man. How do you even manage to look at yourself in the mirror with some of the fights that you put together over the years? I mean, I don't mind somebody saying that, but don't be a friggin' hypocrite about it. I mean, well, there goes Bob Arum, Frank. You're going to call Bob Arum today. Don't call him after
I was really, so.
But I mean, I just get tired of that crap. I mean, stay real here at least with me. Don't be talking about that. I mean, that was your company. That Top Rank was involved with Josh Taylor's fight. That's your guy. If you're so upset about it, don't let it happen. But it happens. So there you go. That's a very good question, Frank, because you know what the key is? It's convoluted. Boxing's always been convoluted. So if you're a fighter, real fast here, if you're a fighter, do you wait until you get the big fight, or do you stay busy? Now, me being the nervous type who likes to be doing stuff all the time, I want to keep fighting. I want to keep sharp. I don't want to wait around until my big opportunity comes. But nowadays, it seems like more guys are waiting than fighting.
Well, I was going to talk to Bob Arum, but I hadn't figured out a way to do it. So the horse from the Pony Express is coming, and I figured I would do that because he's used to anyway. All right. Now, the question that I had, I know. All right. So, and I'm going to go to a completely different sport because you mentioned something that made some sense, actually.
Wow.
Are you, well, I know, I was kind of surprised too. Are you Nicky Lauda? Or are you James Hunt? I will drive in any condition because I want to win, or it's unsafe. Nicky Lauda said, it's the rain and I'm not doing this. When you say a fighter is scary or dangerous, what does that mean? Charles, if you're a boxer, you said it takes a heck of a lot of fortitude to get in the ring, even if you know you're going to win the fight, if the guy isn't that good. But are there guys that you don't fight because you're as a professional fighter? Do you think there are other professional fighters like, I'm not getting in the ring with that guy? Does that happen, or is that just what we think from the outside? Because I don't think. Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna say, not to cut you off, I'm not really sure it is the fighter. Okay, I think sometimes it's the management, because most fighters, as you said, if you step in that ring, you are programmed to think you're going to win, and you are programmed to say, I'm not afraid of anybody, because it takes, as we said before, it takes a man and a woman to step through that ring, doing all that training to put your life on the line to face whomever. So I think it's more of the management. But when you mention about that dangerous fighter, it simply means that it's somebody that can really test your skills, right? And it's not going to be a walkover like you might have been accustomed to in the past. And oftentimes, I think with these managers or promoters or whoever it may be, these representatives of these fighters literally are watching their investment. So therefore, they're making sure that we don't take too many chances, because we don't want to have to, fall off the top of the heap and go back to the drawing board, because that means money, time, money, and all these things that they've so all built up to. And if you're not one of those guys, like you said, is your number going to be called again? So do you waste that time like on the Ortiz, somebody like that? And he is dangerous, because the one thing about it, but if you're a real champion, in my opinion, I mean, and I know I'm going to just throw this name out, I always throw it out there, but like Floyd Mayweather, he's not afraid of nobody. He was like, bring it on, Oscar, whoever. And there were people that always said, him and the other guys too, that will fight anybody. They will fight him, granted. I mean, let's be real. You thought Wilder, when he fought Fury, early on, everybody talked about the issues or the things that Wilder didn't do well. Somebody finally exposed him. But Wilder got in the ring with him. Wilder didn't say, well, I'm not fighting him. I'm going to run over here to Dylan White. He fought him. That's what real champions, that's what real fighters fight. But again, I think it really comes down to the daggone promoters who are trying to protect themselves. And I'm going to say this last thing, get off this real quick. No disrespect to Terrence Crawford, but I think you're absolutely right about Bob Arum. Because my thing is, I love Terrence Crawford. I like the way he fights. But who in the hell has he defeated at 147 that makes you go, yeah, he's the guy? Just because he dominated 140, why does he get a pass? If that's the case, you don't want to fight Sean Porter, fight Keith Thurman. Whoop his butt. Somebody. Give us something. Because right now, you want to go straight to Errol Spence? Nah, man. Like I don't blame Errol Spence. Errol Spence said, look, Keith Thurman, I was coming for you, and you didn't want to see me? You're going to have to wait now. So, hey, Same way.
Well, and the part of that I like of it is, if you are the top guy, as we've said a number of times, you don't have to fight anybody you don't want to fight. I get that. I understand that completely. But I would think that if you are the top guy, you would fight anyone who issues the challenge. It's like, I'm the top of the heap. Somebody come knock me off. That's not the way it's played anymore. And as you both said, it's more about the promoters, I believe, and you believe, than it is about the fighters. Well, since we're not going to have the United Fighting League anytime soon, we're not going to be able to get away with that. But again, we're looking at in this issue, who are the guys that are getting snubbed, and maybe why are they getting snubbed? We've mentioned off air, and it just popped in my head, like a Billy Joe Saunders. Is there a reason why he's in the conversation but not in the conversation? And we can go through that whole thing. We can go Billy Joe Saunders, we can go Chris Eubank, we can go Andre, we can go a bunch of people in there. Why are they in the conversation but not in the conversation? But let's start with that guy, and we can make it all make sense. I think I think that's the tie that puts it all together. John, what is the issue with Billy Joe Saunders, and then we can go a couple other guys from there.
Okay, let me just say this real fast. You're talking about fighters. What popped into my head, this was real quick. Povetkin, right? Povetkin fought Dillian White. He got knocked down twice. He had his whole world rattled, and then he stepped inside and threw a perfect uppercut and knocked out Dillian White. He's got to fight this guy again in November. So you're talking about that fear thing or whatever. He signed a contract. Right. He's got to fight him again. He knows that he was getting his butt kicked, and he caught him with a perfect shot. So that fear thing, that's why fighters are, I mean, he's a fighter. They are, to me, amazing people because, like Charles said, you put your life on the line when you get in there, and you're fighting a guy who weighs 250 pounds. Lots of things can happen. So that was what I thought of when you thought of a fighter. Billy Joe, man, I mean, that guy has so much boxing ability. He's so talented, but he's his own worst enemy. He was going to fight Canelo, and he needs to be fighting because he's one of these guys, when he's not doing anything, that's when he gets in trouble. You know, he puts out this thing about domestic abuse, and he gets suspended. He did something else terrible before that. He's like 31 going on 9. You know, he's right. A very immature guy. He's one of these people that you read about when you read a lot of biographies, and I do that. I don't think he's really good at anything else except boxing.
Like that. Sure.
And like, I'll have to give you an example, like Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio couldn't even drive a car without getting into an accident. He was a terrible driver, but man, could he play baseball. That was like the only thing. He didn't read much. He liked blondes, as we know, but that was about all he could do well. The rest of it, he wasn't even average in a lot of things. Was not a very good golfer. So Billy Joe appears, and this is from a ways away, a guy that he was given a gift. When he's on, he is a hell of a boxer. He would have gave Canelo, he might have beat him. Because he could have outboxed him. Look what he did to Lemieux. Lemieux thought he was going to kill him. Lemieux was talking about putting him in a box. He didn't even lay a glove on Billy Joe for 12 rounds. I mean, it was embarrassing what he did to him. So he's in the conversation on the side, like you said. But Eddie Hearn just said that he wants to bring him back in November and put him in with not Rocky Balboa, but might as well put him in with Rocky Fielding, who Canelo annihilated. Right. Or put him in with Murray or John Ryder or one of these peripheral guys. And then you're talking about Callum Smith off there. Have Callum Smith and Billy Joe go at it because Billy Joe still has the WBO title. So Eddie Hearn is trying to bring him back in. But with him, I think some of it has been his own fault. He was going to fight Andre. Remember, he was going to fight Andre. Right. We forget all about that, and then he failed the drug test. That would have been a fascinating fight. It might not have been the most exciting fight you've ever seen in your life, but it would have been fascinating because it would have been tactical. And so he's, like I said, he's a mixed bag. Real up there with talent, brain about this big. Sorry, Billy Joe, but he's still young enough at 31 that if he gets himself right, he still can be a player, Frank.
Well, see, yeah, and Charles, you're mentioning, we'll go back to the Charlos. We're mentioning, as you said, if you're not getting the fight, go fight somebody. Well, do they go fight Caleb Smith? Do they go fight Caleb Plant? Do they go fight Chris Eubank Jr.? Andre? You know, why isn't something being made out of this? We need to eliminate the peripheral fluff and get to, all right, Canelo, now here I am. Yeah. If that's the way you want to go.
No, I agree with you, particularly with Jamal, because Jamal shows you he's ready. He is ready. I don't know if he's going to win or not, but he's definitely ready to take on Canelo. He's ready to take on, Triple G. He's ready. He showed you. I fought the guy that Triple G had problems with. A lot of people thought he lost to. He took him on. He wasn't the knockout guy, and Devin Checo came at him, and he fought hard, but Jamal was in total control, and he looked real good, and he looked like a very professional fighter that night, and he won fair and square. So now the question is, what is next? I mean, granted, you can go down to, we said Andre, you can fight him. But if I'm him, and I know people like, well, fight Andre. I don't need to fight Andre now. Not right now. I'm ready. I'm ready. You say these two guys, I've shown you. Andre is a hell of a fighter, don't get me wrong. But let's keep it real. The way that they look at him, because if that was the case, they would have gave him some love early on. He would have got the shot, right? You talk about Billy Joe and them, they're not looking at him that way. I'm sorry to say that, but we know how they play that game. So if I am Jamal Charlo, I'm like, I'm waiting. So guess what, Canelo? Canelo doesn't want to fight me. Triple G, bring it on. I got belts, right? I got a belt. So let's go. You want a belt? Come see me about the belt. In the same way with Jamel. I mean, Jamel now is up there, and people are gonna come for Jamel because he has a lot of belts. So they're gonna come. He's not gonna have to go looking for anybody hard at all. They're coming. But Jamal, on the other hand, is totally different because he's trying to get up there, trying to rise up, and he's proven, without a doubt, that he's worthy. And like I said, you can argue Andre, but if I was him, I'd play the game too. I could fight Andre and show you, yeah, I beat him. But I guess my question with that, I'll leave you with this on this point is, if he fights Andre, is that going to give him more respect to move up to the next level to fight Triple G or Canelo?
No, because you're fighting someone they don't respect anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, and there's the conundrum. How can you break in if they're not going to break out? If the thought is it's going to be Canelo, Triple G, Canelo, Canelo, Triple G, Triple Canelo, you got to fight one of them to get in there. Well, if they're waiting to fight each other in 2023 or whenever the hell it's going to be, you're stuck. Now, I will say that the pandemic has got everything slowed down. I get that. But in a few weeks, it'll be a year since Canelo fought. A year. And not only has it been a year since he fought, it's been a year since he thought of fighting. You know, was there something? Was he planning on fighting in May?
No, but he would have fought in September against Billy Joe.
Right, but he wasn't planning on fighting in May. So it would have been around now. So, you know, we're looking at, I'm not necessarily blaming him. I'm hearing there's problems with Golden Boy and promotions and all that stuff and everything. Yeah, but he wasn't going to fight before the pandemic.
I think he might have, Frank. I think I heard that he wanted to, but they couldn't get an opponent that they were sat. And that's the thing too. And that was when Billy Joe was being bounced around. Then was in May, and then Billy Joe had that issue with the tape, and he got. I could be wrong here, but I believe that. But they couldn't firm it up, and that's why Billy Joe Saunders said, "Look, they're playing mind games with me."
Excuse me.
So
my problem is, if I'm the guy that everybody wants. If I'm the guy up here, how can I not find a fight? If I'm the guy leading the division, all I have to say is, I'm willing to fight on this date. Who wants to step up to the challenge? And everybody is saying, me, I'll step up to the challenge, and you can't find a fight. Now, maybe you set your sight on Billy Joe, and then that didn't happen. Who else was out there?
Well, you know, you could
500
have
guys?
what would be cool, Frank, is if I wish they would do this. They could have Charlo and Golovkin fight, and then guarantee that the winner gets Canelo.
Mhm.
You know, and Golovkin is 38 years old. You know
Yeah.
that he's going to himself. I don't want to fight Charlo. Are you kidding? He's too young. He's too fast. He's too sharp. I mean, I still got a good jab, but I've slowed down. I'm 38 years old. I'm an old war horse here more than anything else. I'm not that guy that 6 or 7 years ago was knocking everybody out and blowing everybody away. I'm still good, but I'm going to get pounded. You know,
Charles is chomping up the bit, but I'm just going to say this.
No, that's
I may, if I'm Triple G, I may be crafty, but am I crafty enough, Charles?
I've said it for a long time, and the years keep passing, and maybe he's going to prove me wrong. But I think that they're saying, John mentioned, he doesn't want anything to do with Charlo, because if he loses, I think that's a wrap as far as the money fights. There's nothing else out there for him. Right. Triple G is the cash cow for him. He knows it. Everybody knows it. That's how he gets paid. Even if Canelo was to lose legitimately to him, Canelo is going to bounce back because he's still young and he's the guy. He's got all this money. He got the whole contracts and whatnot. But when it comes to Triple G, this is like he on his last parade route, and he knows if he take a major chance like a Charlo, he may not get another shot. And I think that's part of it. So when you take that into consideration, I don't blame him, but we need to be honest about it. But my problem with it is, here's my thing real quick. My problem is this though. What has he done in the last 3 years that makes him remain in the top 10? And granted, you can say the controversial thing bouts with Canelo, but other than that, tell me, why is this man always finds his way to remain in the top 10 of the best boxers right now?
You mean like pound for pound?
Yes.
I don't think he's in the pound for pound discussion anymore. He's number 2, I think, or 3 as far as the middleweight division, but not pound for pound. At least I don't think he is.
Okay. How many years did you say? Last 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, other than last week, he hadn't fought since last October. So that was Derevyanchenko, which I thought we were done trying to pronounce that name, but apparently we got one more week of that. He fought Steve Rolls. Yeah. And you're going to say, oh, well, the legendary Steve Rolls. Yeah. And whenever I say this, I'm not disparaging anyone, but just who the heck? Okay. Canelo.
Okay.
Vanis, and I always mess this name, Varturasen. Good fighter.
Knocked him out easily.
Knocked him out easily. I mean, he's had a nice career. Canelo again. Danny Jacobs. Okay. Kell Brook. That gets us back to this time, 2016.
Yeah.
So it's not awful.
No,
it's not awful.
It's not top 10.
It's not top 10. It's not awful. 10. There are more names in there than I would have thought. I forgot about the Kell Brook fight. I really did.
Yeah.
Danny Jacobs. I remember that one. But again, yeah. What like you're saying, there's the David Lemieux fight in there in 2015, and then it just goes to a bunch of Matthew Macklin. Guys that but you're thinking, does that build a resume? Again, it doesn't mean that it has to. Because you can build your resume on guys that, unfortunately, you beat who's in front of you, and you show you can do it. But to Charles' point, what have you, to quote Janet Jackson, never mind, I'm not going to do that. But what have you done for me lately? I was going to go a whole completely different way from that, but anyhow, take my breath out. But it's like, but what have you done for me lately? What have you done? And I know I'm showing my age, and hopefully I didn't do that again. But you look at it and you say, when you fight somebody and you dominate them, that moves you up. Doesn't matter how bad they are if you look good. But if you fight kind of somebody, but you look like you are 36 years old, 37 years old, 38 years old. When you get to that 38 version, where am I running? Have I looked good? Have I looked like, like Nolan Ryan, that I still can throw heat at 43? Or do I look like I'm Joe Namath and ready to fall over? So it doesn't look good here for him to be the next option for someone that's moving up, and he's still trying to move up as well. My thought is, let me finish it real quick, but my thought is, and this is the first time I've said this, first time I thought it, let's have the Triple G fight next month with Canelo. Get it done, get it out of the way, let's get past it and move on. Because that's what we're apparently waiting for. Let's do it, let's get it over with, and then let's move on. John.
Yeah, and those are all excellent points you guys are making. And I think Charles is right, too, about Golovkin. I think Golovkin is concerned because he knows that if he loses to Canelo again, which he likely will, that's it. He loses again, that's it. So if he loses to Canelo, he at least makes a boatload of money, and he can leave right then. And everyone will say, yeah, it was great. He had a really hell of a career. He's borderline. Yeah, well, his resume, right, like you said, Frank. I mean, I was going to say Hall of Fame. If he had won one of those fights against Canelo, and I actually think he did, he just didn't get the decision, he would have made it. Golovkin is another guy that, to me, I've complained about over the years, not for him, but his career, the way it was handled. He didn't get here till he was 30-something. HBO built him up over, like you were saying, over guys that were pretty good, brilliantly, where he became the scariest man on the planet. He was like the middleweight version of Tyson there for a while. And he was knocking out everybody, and it was fun. I mean, I went to one of those fights in Carson, and he did a whole jogging around the whole crowd, and they loved it. He's very charismatic and a nice guy, really nice guy. So everybody, the Mexicans love him because he fights. He's a hard fighter. Now, I think what we were talking about is he's been rated more on his past than his now, what Charles is saying. I mean, he's resting on his laurels. I don't mean Laurel and Hardy either. It's over for him in a lot of ways, and I think he knows it better than anyone. I do. Fighters know. They might not admit it, but they know it. And he's probably thinking, well, if I can just hit him with one of these big shots, maybe I'll hit the gold mine. And he might. But his career was like amazing. It was like a big time. He gets here late. He says, great 4 or 5 year run. And then you started to see him starting to lose things. And it's too bad he didn't fight Canelo earlier because he would have beat him. But that's all the way it was done. And you could even see against Steve Rolls, Frank. He's getting hit with punches now he should not.
He never would have before. Right.
It's just age. You can't help it. 400 amateur fights, 40 pro fights. I mean, the body can only go so long. So I also think, I'm going to say this real fast. We're talking about Golovkin, but I think Alvarez, Golden Boy, DAZN, not Canelo. I think he would fight Charlo, but I think they are who are afraid of Jamal Charlo. That's who's really scared because they know that Charlo would give Canelo hell, and they don't want to risk it. So Charlo gets left out on the sidelines and has being forced to fight somebody else like Andrade or whoever, or Chris Eubank. Charlo and Chris Eubank would be a hell of a scrap. Yeah. So why doesn't that talked about? I don't know. I mean, Chris Eubank is limited. The point, right? Eubank's been in Vegas working on his skills, right? So I expect him to be better and he wasn't bad before. Right. So put him in with Charlo right now. Unfortunately, this is the way it is because I don't know when Alvarez is going to fight again, guys. He's fighting in the courts. So he's like AWOL right now.
I have an analogy for Triple G. It's kind of like HBO and everyone went, hey, we'll go to baseball. Albert Pujols says he's leaving the Cardinals. Let's sign him to a $137,000 million year contract. And hopefully, while he's still in that contract, we can watch him push for 700 home runs for his career. Now, he may not be able to round the bases after he hits it, but we're still going to put him out there. And that's where we've got Triple G. We're just going to let him run around through the sunset here and keep collecting on that. 38, 43, we'll just keep running him out there. We decided to put him in this deal, put him as that guy, that's our cash cow. It doesn't matter. And he, again, as Charles said, 38 years old. Why? So I don't know. To go to the lower weights, and we'll get back to the Chris Eubank thing here in a second, unless Charles wants to weigh on that now.
If I can, real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
In fact, Eubanks, I think he's just kind of in that level with Andre. He's just not getting the respect he deserves.
Right.
So that's how they're running it. But the other thing I'm gonna say too is I have one fight. So if, like you said, pay Triple G all of the money, get him all set up, and then Canelo's ready, cool. But if not, John, I want you to make a phone call. I want to see Andre Ward come out of retirement. Let's make this money. Let's get this money. Everybody, I would love to see that fight. I know Andre's done, but you know what? Let's give him as much money as he wants one last time to put this man out of his misery, and let's move on. At least I would love to see that fight because we're not going to see the Canelo fight. Canelo is waiting. They're waiting because they know the longer they wait, the older Triple G is getting. They know this. And with this COVID thing, that's a ready-made excuse. Well, we would have fought him last October. But then that COVID thing came, and Triple G getting older. He's getting older. They're going to be 40 before he get in the ring. So let's get Andre Ward to come back for one fight, put him out of his misery, if that's what it is, and everybody can go home and be happy. We can give him his flowers. We can have a eulogy and all that, too. I know that's bad.
It sounds to me like we're in the old West, and we're like, it's the Magnificent Seven. Like, we can't get rid of the bad guys.
But it would be good to see, though. I mean, if we're going to do that, right? If you can't fight Triple G can't fight Canelo, Andre. Well, let's try something crazy. Why not?
Yeah.
Because who else? Who you won't? He's not going to fight Charlo. Not going to fight anybody younger. Not going to take the risk. At least this is a risk that will be worth his while because we're going to give him his money, and then he probably think he can beat your guy now because he's older. He's been on the sideline, so he's probably getting excited. Ooh, I'm gonna get this money. I think I can beat Andre Ward now. He's gained some weight. I'm just saying, right? Right? I mean, right? Think about it though. He's on the sideline.
He's wearing his pretty suit all the time.
Yeah.
He's got a Manny and a Petty. He ain't out here to fight.
That's what I'm saying. And give him enough money to make him think he can. I would pay for that. I haven't paid for a fight in 20 years. I would pay for that. I pay cash money for that fight. Anyway, I'm sorry. I digress.
Hey, I saw Jamel Charlo challenge Oscar De La Hoya to a fight. So there you go. That's the one we all want to see. It's Oscar fight.
Might as well be
154, baby. 154. That's when Oscar fought at 154.
Might as well throw it out there. He's going to fight Oscar Mayer. I mean, come on.
Hey, one last thing, real quick. I did see where Jamel said he wanted to fight Floyd in that Brian Custer
interview. Floyd and he's got Oscar in
he
the same
said
match.
That. But to the credit of the Charlos, Jamal said, leave that man alone. He's done his time. He's earned his right. Leave that man alone. He said, what you're chasing is a ghost. He said that man is a legitimate
chasing this,
right. And he said he's not fighting. It's like a fantasy thing, like me fighting Ali or something. He's like, leave that alone. So to his credit, the older brother told him, shh, stay focused on your career. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
The host is flummoxed. No, never speechless. Never thoughtless, maybe, but never speechless. The idea of as we go to the quote unquote lower weights, and you would think it would be even easier because there's not as much disparity between 140, 147, 135. Everything's close or closer. You would think it would be even easier to put together some of these matches, and it's not, and that blows me away. Who in these weights do we think I don't know if we say deserves a shot, but is not getting a shot because of whether it's politics or they just are not the up-and-comer or they're faded out or whatever, who do we look at and go, this guy should be getting a chance? John, who are we missing in the mix that should be getting a shot?
Well, I'm thinking of the two young guys that nobody's even talking about anymore in the lightweight division, Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. I mean, those guys are the future of boxing, and no one's even talking about them right now. Haney was supposed to be fighting. I mean, Garcia was supposed to be fighting Luke Campbell here, and I don't know if it's official yet. I don't know. Haney got injured or something, so he's kind of on the sidelines. But those are the guys that people ought to be talking about. And also Boots Enos is really good. He's not talked about nearly as much as he should be. If you look at the super featherweights, I mean, that division is packed. You know, you got the Jackal, Carl Frampton, you got Oscar Valdez, and then you got Charles's boy Leo Santa Cruz is fighting fighting Davis here in October, and you got Tevin Farmer, who's really good, and you got Diaz. So you got a lot of Jamal Herring. I mean, that division is loaded.
Yeah,
the little guys. But, about the little guys.
But my point is, you have got to like Prograis. Losing to Josh Taylor, you might as well have just eliminated him from boxing forever. It's like one loss to a good fighter, but
he's still in the mix. He's going to get his shot again.
But we're not. Not in the conversation.
I get your point. Yeah. But I think that might have been more his choice. I think he kind of took a break from what I understand. But I just saw something on Twitter. I was looking it up here. I can't remember what he said, but he's still ranked like third, and he's there, and he's gonna, Ramirez and Josh Taylor. I mean, you're talking about the super welterweights, junior welterweights, whatever you want to call them. Not super welterweight, but junior welterweights. That division is another incredible. You got Victor Postel, you got Baranchek, who I wrote an article about, who's as strong as a mule, and you got Zabita, who he's fighting, and then you got Prograis, Ramirez, and Josh Taylor. I mean, you're talking about a division that's loaded.
That's loaded, right?
Talent, and a lot of people don't know that, which is kind of sad. And they had a division, a series, a tournament that was exciting as all hell. Josh Taylor won it. So the smaller weights, if you're talking about talent-wise, Frank, and all that, it is there. But again, the one thing you got me looking at this, you're right. I mean, the five guys, mostly it's the five guys. The other guys, if you're 6, 7, 8, or 9, you're pretty much discarded. You're pretty much forgot. And that's unfortunate. That shouldn't be the way it is. But right now, hopefully it improves in 2021. But right now, it just seems like we're waiting on some fights that will make us go, wow, that's a good one. And we got a few coming up.
I remember a show we did probably probably longer than that now, a few months ago, where we were mentioning Miguel Burchell.
Yeah,
he's even got a belt or had a belt, and we still is not in the mix. And I know we've discounted what the belts mean anymore. I get that. But how is it possible you have a belt and no one wants to fight you? Or not necessarily no one wants to fight you, you can't get a fight. That seems weird to me.
Well, he's dangerous too, so.
Yeah. Charles, where in that mix are we, again, this is a mixed bag kind of show, but where in that grouping of people from feather up to welter, who's getting squeezed is a better word.
I think about, was it Warrington? I think about Warrington. I was looking at the standings as we were preparing for this. I'm looking at there. And there's another name I'll throw out there, maybe because it's to his own demise. He's doing it to himself, self-inflicted. I'm looking at Gary Russell Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't get a fight. Nobody, he ran his mouth a little bit talking about Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, like, you know what? I'm going up. I'm not even messing with you. But the one thing I did find interesting, though, and I don't know how long it's going to take. It might be, I don't know how long Gary Russell want to hang around. But I looked down in that same area, and I was like, is that Shakur Stevenson? I see it over there, right around in that area. Mm-hmm. I was like, is that Shakur? I said, is that Shakur Stevenson right in that area with Mr. Russell? I was like, you know what? That might be a little interesting type of matchup there. And it would bring out Gary Russell Jr. back to the forefront. His name, right?
Right.
Sure, definitely will take it. Now you got to talk to Andre because Andre's not trying to rush him. Andre is a calculated individual. I get that, but to me, that if nobody wants to fight you, Gary Russell Jr., would you take a look around behind you and say, "I'll fight that young boy. Let's go get it on," and it would be a great fight to see. And just depends on when it will happen. I think there's a lot of money to be made too.
Well, in his the thing I see about Russell, the mistake that he made, other than being as inactive as he's been, is that he showed himself to be very good and lost to Lomo.
Yeah.
So you can look at that from two ways. Well, I'm not going to fight him by the loss to Lomo. I mean, what did you do? Plus, as we were talking about before, John, he's still dangerous. So I think people are going, I can slow you off, throw you off to the side because you do have that loss. You have been inactive. The names that you fought since then are nobody that we go, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Yet you're also so dangerous. I can't really put my guy in the ring with you. So some of it's self-inflicted, like Charles said, but some of it is just that fight with Lomo. Of course, it was 6 years ago. It wasn't like it happened yesterday. So I would think he'd get a shot to come back, but I think he's just in limbo now.
Well, he only fights once a year, as you guys know, and he's got all kinds of challenges. I mean, why doesn't he call out, like Charles just said, Josh Warrington? Go to England, take a chance. I think he likes to keep everything a certain way. And years ago, we interviewed him, Dennis and I. He's in charge of his career, and he's got a real interesting way of thinking about his career. It's like he's controlling his own destiny, in other words. So no matter what we say, why don't you fight Navarrete, or why don't you fight Kid Galahad, or fight Shakur? Nope. He's going to fight who he thinks he's going to fight. And that's it. When he fought Lomo had come off a loss. So that was actually a real big gamble for Lomachenko. Here he is, this super stud, and getting title shots, second, third fight. And he had lost his title shot, and he's fighting Gary Russell Jr. in his third fight.
I remember wow.
That was a great fight. That was a great fight. And Lomo won it, no doubt about it. But Gary has always been Mr. Gary Russell Jr. He's always been He's always been kind of an enigma to me. I don't know exactly. I mean, like I said, if this is the way he wants to run his career and he's happy with it, fights once a year, takes off the rest of the time. I'm sure he stays in the gym because he's always in incredible shape. It's just that it feels to me, and I don't know about you guys, but when you have that much talent, he's had 32 fights, it feels like he's wasting it to me. A little bit, not totally. Just feels like he's wasting it because that a lot of boxers will say, look, I want to challenge myself against the best in the division. And he did against Lomo, and he lost. And since then, he hasn't really fought anybody he beat Joseph Diaz, who's a good fighter. But Warrington would be quite a challenge just because Warrington is so busy. He'd be doing what Lomo did to him in a way. He'd be pushing him and throwing punches. But he could beat him. He's got the talent. And Navarrete is so tall, So he's got some challenges out there. I just get the feeling he just doesn't really want to take them. He'd rather just keep fighting guys who rank 8 or 9. Maybe he can fight Magdaleno, Jesse, or somebody like that, and beat him, beat the brakes off him. But fighting the top guys, I don't know. Maybe I don't think it's a confidence thing. I just think is it management, or is it him, or is it both?
Well, Charles, it reminds me of when you fell in love with golfing. And it's like, what are you doing? I'm going golfing. Are you going to the driving range? I'm going golfing. Well, I've got 3 guys there. I'm going to play with them. I'm going to hit in the park. I'm going to hit off the stick. I'm going to do a putt-putt, whatever. It was like, I want to do this. This is something that I want to do, regardless of whether anyone else thinks I'm any good at it or not. I enjoy doing this. And then once you get to the point where you're competent at it, like, I want to do it some more. Well, the thing that I see with Gary Russell Jr. and a couple other guys, but especially him, it's like, apparently I don't like this that much. This isn't a passion. I did what I did. I got good at it. I made some money at it. And if I fight once a year and they pay me for it, I'm good. If you were only able to play golf once a year or once a month, it had driven you crazy. It's like, this is what I want to do. Somebody put a club in my hand. Let me go hit a tree. I don't really care. Let's go. And I start to see something, and there's nothing wrong with having that. Not everyone has to be a fighter and fight 17 rounds every 3 weeks. I get that. But it seems like if you're going to be the champion and you're going to have the belt and to be considered for all these things, you have to be more active. There has to be some more want to. You're not giving back to the sport that gave to you, that allowed you to have the lifestyle that you have, allowed you to have the life that you have. I'm not saying you got to go get your head crushed in every couple of weeks, but you at least have to defend the belt. And I'm sorry, I don't see it. Like John said, he wants to run his career his own way. That's fine, but you got to at least defend the belt more than once every decade.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think too that what's happening to him is because what he's done, or he's been his own worst enemy. He's waiting to fighting once a year, and as John mentioned, not taking on some of the challenges. People are passing him by. It's like he's there, he's there. I mean, like Santa Cruz. He knows he even went to try to start something with Santa Cruz's dad, try to get something going there. Santa Cruz just laughed at him like,
who are you?
You're not important anymore.
Right.
I'm going to go up here. I'm going to do something that you are definitely afraid to do. You're not going up. I'm going to go up. We know you want nothing to do with that.
Right.
You say you do, but you don't. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go up here and fight Tank Davis. Who knows what's going to happen, but I'm confident enough. I'm going to go up here and see this man. You're not doing that. So I think he's getting passed by because he's been waiting. And sometimes, as you said, you can be your own worst enemy because you feel like you are so much in control. But you come to find out that the people that really are making decisions are like, nah, if you don't want to fight this guy, we really don't need you. Yeah, you're a champion status, right? You're that type of guy. But if you don't want to play ball, hey, you're just going to get older.
And you made a perfect point. In control and in demand. Mm-hmm. You're not in demand anymore. Like you said, the other guys are like, whatever. And this is the thing that, and I'm going to go to the welterweight real quick and get off of it. This is the thing about the welterweights. Like, if you're not in demand as welterweight, what's going on? If no one wants to fight you, what are you doing? Because everyone wants to fight somebody in the welterweight division, other than Terrence Crawford's management want to fight anybody else. It's like, Spence wants to fight them. They want to fight Spence. They want to fight, one of the Garcias. They want to fight Thurman. They want to fight Porter. They want to fight this, blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. Everyone seems to want to fight somebody. Whether they pull it off or not is another story. But even though we say people are ducking people, I don't think anyone's ducking anybody in that division. I just think that they have made the right decisions on who they're doing, what they're doing. But anyway, all right. So coming up, we have more stuff coming up. We're not going to get into that this week because there's nothing super major coming on this weekend, but we're getting to that point. So coming up, what we would like for you as an audience to do is to give us some feedback on how you want us to do this. Obviously, we had a great time doing the super fights that we looked at before. We have a great time talking about, we just have a great time talking about boxing. But we would like a little bit of feedback on what you want to see so you can show this to your friends and go, those three guys are cool. We want to listen more about what they have to talk about. So that's me signing off, gentlemen. John, any last thoughts, words, book plugs, or anything like that you want to make?
Well, since you mentioned book plugs, Frank, the one behind me, a few more rounds. It goes officially on Amazon tomorrow, which is October 1st. So, we're real excited about it. We're very thrilled with it. Jerry Fish and I wrote it in 4 months. So we're patting ourselves on the back going, wow, we are something else. Hopefully a few people agree with us that it's at least pretty good. So that's pretty exciting. And the boxing fans, real fast, we got some great fights. We're going to be going crazy here, Charles and me, because and Frank, of course. But we've got Lomo and Lopez on the 17th, and when we got Santa Cruz, Charles's guy, against Davis the following weekend. So 2 weekends in a row, we got some real fascinating fights. So I know boxing's been a little funky in some ways, but we got some good stuff coming up, and I want the feedback too, because I really want to give people who watch this show what they really want and feel like they're enjoying it with us and possibly maybe even learning a little bit. So that's always the goal.
Mr. Farmer?
Yes, sir. Just trying to still make some things happen with the reality of sports, trying to build that brand, provide some different variety of sports and to people in a different kind of way. Also doing some stuff with the Goon Squad Sports radio show, just kind of different sports all the way around. But when we talk about this boxing piece here, um, I think that we bring together all kind of different angles and different perspectives. And granted, we have not heard from you fans a lot, but we want to hear from you. But I think some people are picking up on it because a few people have reached out to me over the weekend with the Charlo weekend, and I was able to get quick access to our referees, you know, with Harvey Doc, and also had to connect with David Fields. His family gave me a buzz. So he might be interested in coming on the show. So that'd be real cool because he's a former sparring partner, right? You know, with Marvin Hagler and a few other guys, middleweights. And there'll be a different perspective from him. He's been around a long time. I looked at the kind of fights that he and Harvey Doc have done. I think Harvey Doc just had finished his 231st fight. And I think David Fields is in that area as range as well. And these guys have been in it, seen it all. And so if we're getting connection from there, you might want to pay attention to us a little bit more because we're going to try to bring you some very unique and interesting things, along with we got great authors making things happen. So you might want to stay tuned because if you miss the bus, you're going to be like Gary Russell Jr. Anyway, we ain't going to talk to you. Anyway.
And on my end, obviously we've got the Ultimate Sports Network. We're expanding in more ways than I'm expanding, which is a lot since the COVID took over. So, but that's another story entirely. But we're also looking at doing some things, which is actually, this kind of fell in my lap. And guys, tell me what you think about this. We're looking at the new Olympic movement, I guess is a way of putting it. Some former Olympians have reached out to me to talk about and to showcase what they're doing about the inequities and what's going on as far as the Olympic Committee, the U.S. Olympic Committee, making a boatload of money for their executives and that money not being distributed amongst the Olympians and the management and how that's working out. So there's a bill that's supposed to be being voted on in Congress today about that particular thing and how they're going to revamp the Olympic Committee and what they're going to do. So have some former Olympians we're going to talk about with that. And various different things that are just jumping out us that are just fun and interesting on Ultimate Sports Network. So I could go into detail with a few more things, but I can't think of them right now. So, but we're doing a lot of stuff and we're just moving along. So folks, join us in many of the venues that we have. A lot of things that you may not think that we'll cover, we cover in different angles for different shows. So hook up with us and see what you think and enjoy your day. Thank you.